I don't
We're
actually
getting right
know.
into it. No, hello, how you? Hello,
we're getting
how's it
right into
going?
If anything, that's a testament to the movie. It wasn't. I mean, it was. Well, it was different.
Here's the
a little bit.
Hans. Here's the fun thing. You could say literally anything about this movie right now, and I'd go. You could be like, well, it was better than I thought, and I'd be like, You could be like, it was worse than I thought, and I would be like, You could be like, it was different. It was the same. Like, this is.
There's going to be a lot to talk about in this one.
Is there? I don't want there to be.
I think so. I'm so
actually.
conflicted
I'm
about
sorry,
it.
Aaron. My response to that. There's gonna be a lot to talk about this. There's not gonna be a lot to say.
But you can't check your six. It's kind of like, taking a screwdriver to a gunfight. What's happening? Just like on top.
Can I say something really, really quickly before we get going?
I was in the middle of the hello, but okay.
Well, the only reason I wouldn't normally, but the only reason I feel like I have to say this, I know several of our friends who listen to this podcast have been sort of actually watching along with us, jokingly. They are, and it's terrifying. I've explicitly told every single one of them not to do that, they have all defied me.
Stop it.
The point is, please know that if you do decide to go down that route, which we absolutely don't recommend.
In fact, I recommend you not.
Absolutely, but we can't control you. So if you decide that you absolutely have to make that mistake yourself, a dog does die in this movie. Just know that ahead of time.
Yeah,
they commit the unforgivable sin,
and it is completely inconsequential to the It never needs to happen. A movie never needs to do that.
No, it makes no sense. There's no reason for it.
This
doesn't
one has
add anything.
Completely no reason for that to happen.
It's just frustrating. So just know that going in, even though you absolutely shouldn't watch this movie.
Yeah.
Content warning, dead dog.
Hey, you shouldn't watch A Dangerous Man because they kill a dog in the movie. You also shouldn't watch A Dangerous Man because it is A Dangerous Man from 2009 starring Steven Seagal.
And Byron Mann.
Yes. Delightful surprise. Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Anyway, thank you. Go ahead.
Hello and welcome to episode 32 of Steven See It All. Today we are reviewing 2009's A Dangerous Man, starring Steven Seagal and returning favorite Byron Mann. I'm Aaron.
I'm Zach. Was Byron Mann in a previous Steven Seagal movie that I forgot about?
Oh, yeah.
Belly
of the Beast.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right, yeah.
He was the best part of Belly of the Beast, by far.
He was the best part of everything he's in. Go, Hans.
I'm Hans. You knew that already, though.
Welcome. So like I said, we're talking about A Dangerous Man today. This is the last movie of 2009.
We're also talking about a movie called A Dangerous Man.
Steven Seagal is not,
Nice.
I don't know if he's a dangerous man. He's not dangerous in the way that he thinks he is.
Okay, I will give you that, yes.
No.
Anyway.
Anyway.
So this is the last movie of 2009, I believe.
Out of four.
We need four movies in 2009. Which, the year of our Lord 2009 has been a really mixed bag, I think, for Seagal movies. The variance in quality has been extreme, I think. And each of the movies of 2009 has had, for me, this is from my perspective, each of these last four movies has been, within the movie, incredible variances in quality. There'll be elements of the movie that I'm like, okay, this is a movie. And then parts of it, I'm like, I have no idea what's happening. Or something that looks trash, and then the very next shot will be like, oh, that's actually...
This is
that's a movie scene.
Just for frame of reference, this is Against the Dark, Driven to Kill, The Keeper, and A Dangerous Man, all from 2009.
Yeah.
I will say something that this one doesn't fall in line with. At the very least, this one wasn't boring.
No.
Yeah.
Something this also doesn't... This one is also not a zombie survival film that actually has vampires that actually barely features Steven Seagal. So we'll give it that.
Yeah.
That differentiates it from at least one other film this year.
The first thing that I want to say at the top of this about A Dangerous Man specifically is that Seagal is in this a lot.
And he is very clearly like, this feels another one where it's like Steven Seagal is title of movie.
Yeah.
Steven Seagal is Driven to Kill. Steven Seagal is a dangerous man. Like,
old
we're
school.
we lost that for a bit. We brought that back.
Yeah, for a while the title has had nothing to do with what's happening on screen, but here it is definitely, it's trying to sell you the idea that he's a dangerous man and he does dangerous things and he's dangerous to other people.
So
in like a very violent way.
So
Let's
Aaron,
just-
tell us in detail
like-
exactly how the movie tells us that he is a dangerous man.
Yeah,
That
please,
is
'cause
actually difficult.
this one. The plot of this one there's so much going on, and it actually kind of follows it pretty well. So please, I'm gonna shut up. Just
Okay.
take us there.
So we open in the year of our Lord 2003, apparently. And Steven Seagal goes to jail. He is sent to prison. A man tries to mug his wife, and so he chases him off. And the mugger is killed that day. And so Seagal is sent to prison for the murder of this mugger. And he spends 6 years in prison before he is exonerated of his crimes based on new DNA. Well, actually, it was old DNA evidence that was never submitted in court. The Innocence Project got him out. This doesn't matter at all to the movie.
We've kept this. If you thought I really want another I don't have enough Steven Seagal films where the first 20 minutes are completely inconsequential to the rest and are basically a whole separate movie, don't worry. We're not out of those woods quite yet.
No.
That's the first note I have.
All this opening like 20 minutes does is establish that Seagal has some sort of military background that he mentions explicitly in the courtroom when he's exonerated. And that he has now an ex-wife because he receives a letter from his wife that she's sick of waiting for him and has like moved on. It's been 6 years on the day he is released from prison.
That he is standing out in the middle of the prison yard in the rain reading.
She's like, I can't wait this long on the day he's released.
Which, to be fair, is a very funny bit on her part. Like, that is an amazing goof right there that she pulled off.
That's like some Simpsons level. Like, that could be a gag from The Simpsons or like Futurama or something. But anyway, he gets out of jail and just decides to like drive around for a bit. Like he goes into a liquor store and buys a bottle of whiskey and beats up two guys outside the liquor store.
He goes into a liquor store and buys a very clearly like cheap like knockoff of Jack Daniels.
Yes,
It
it's
has a
just
very
called
funny
Jack's.
label on it.
And then he drives around and drinks his whiskey until he witnesses. So this is where the actual story begins. The story could have started here. These two young men, like in their 20s, maybe early 30s, driving around, and they stop at a rest stop, and they're like hooligans, kind of. And they stop at a rest stop. They barely mention that.
They barely.
It ends up not mattering. Also, that also ends up not mattering. There are lots of little details about these people's lives that, like, you can just skip that. It doesn't. He's a car thief, but that he never boosts a car throughout the entire movie. That skill never comes into play, even though it could have many times.
Well, they're driving a stolen car. That's what they start saying when you first get to them.
Yeah, but how does that factor into the plot?
Well, even what's funny that factors into the plot even less is that that this opening scene is just 3 separate stolen cars all converging at the same rest stop parking lot.
Yes.
Steven Seagal is in a stolen car. The 2 young men are in a stolen car, and I don't know, the human traffickers are probably also in a stolen car.
Yeah, so
They have
these
a
human
woman and
traffickers.
cash in the boot, so
Yeah, so these human traffickers pull up. They get stopped by the cops. And so they get pulled over, and so they stop at this rest stop to talk to the cops. And it turns out that they're like these members of this Chinese gang, and they have a lady knocked out in the back seat and a bag full of cash. And so they end up killing the police officers and one of the 2 carjackers. And Seagal saves the other carjacker and like chases away the Chinese gangsters, and they rescue the woman from the back seat. and they rescue the bag of cash. And they drive away. Woman wakes up. Turns out she hired this gang to smuggle her uncle from China into the United States. So I need you to remember as we go through, the whole purpose of all the violence that's about to happen is that this Chinese gang is trying to smuggle her uncle into the United States. But they need to interrogate him or something. It is never explained why. Unless I miss something, they never say why they need to stop the uncle and interrogate him. As far as I know, he's just some old Chinese guy.
And they're just like, we're gonna hold him. Like,
we need him. We need to hold him. And there's actually like 2 different Chinese gangs that are like fighting each other over this guy, and it's never explained why.
Doesn't matter either.
It doesn't matter. Seagal and her name is Tia, the girl who woke up in the backseat. So they're in one party. Sergey, the carjacker, goes back to his dad, who is apparently a Russian mobster, because now we have to have Russian mobsters in all these movies. And the Chinese gang, they send some people to go like steal the lady back, steal Tia back, and so they like shoot up the motel where Seagal is staying.
Well, there was a tracker inside the money
there was a
bag.
tracker inside the bag full of money. And so they shoot up the motel. And so Seagal's like, oh, well, I guess this isn't over. And I guess I have to fight these guys now. And so I'm going to go ask Sergey and his Russian mob dad for help. And there's this whole thing with like this bar that the Russian mob family like owns or hangs out at called Little Russia.
Little Russia.
It doesn't really matter. There's also like these corrupt cops who are like working with one of the Chinese gangs, but not the other one. And it's difficult to tell which is which. They don't like wear uniforms or anything. And I'm pretty sure they reuse stuntmen for both sides of this gang war. But anyway, hijinks ensue for like an hour. None of it matters. There's finally a shootout at the Russian mob's house, like his big mansion. And you think the movie's over, but then you remember, oh, like this whole thing was about this uncle that no one's told me why he matters, but we have to go rescue him now. Because he's actually been in the United States this entire time. He was brought over like in the opening credits, and it just was really never mentioned again. And so I don't know why they've been waiting to interrogate him up to this point, or why it's taken like several days. Like several days go by in this whole story. And then there's a shootout at the hideout of the one Chinese gang, which has like backstabbed the other Chinese gang. And it's unclear why. And then Seagal blows up Byron Man. And then apparently he and Tia get married, even though they had zero chemistry. And in fact, Tia spends most of the movie hanging out with Sergey, the Russian mob carjacker guy. And they are about the same age. And
and would make much more sense in every single way, other than
much more
he's
sense
not
in every
played by
single way.
Seagal.
Yeah. And then the credits roll. And that's a dangerous man. Most of it didn't matter.
I don't actually know. So I guess we kind of made an assumption at the beginning. Is Seagal actually the dangerous man? There's a lot of dangerous men in this movie.
There are a lot of dangerous men.
Byron Man playing the Colonel, he could be a dangerous. He'd be the dangerous.
He was
man.
a very dangerous. He actually was a
dangerous.
very dangerous man in this. The police captain. He was a very dangerous. He had actually
a dangerous man.
Some of the best moments in this whole movie.
Yeah.
He didn't matter as a character, but I think he had the best character moments in the movie.
The random, the Russian crime boss that like happens to meet Seagal because his son bumps into him, and then he becomes like ride or die best friends, like enough to go save like Seagal's female friends, like uncle. Like he's a dangerous man. Like I don't think we actually know why the Russian dad and son like help Seagal in this gunfight at the end?
Well, because
I don't know
Seagal saves
why.
his son's life at the shootout in the beginning of the movie, and then he saves the dad's life at the shootout at their house in the middle of the movie.
But
he's
it is
probably a dangerous
unclear
man, too.
throughout the movie like why anyone is helping anyone else.
They just no, it's fun. They kind of just like team up. They're just like buddies. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, we're friends now. So,
That one actually, it kind of made sense.
well, but I just like to
surprisingly
picture
enough.
that they're like, oh, you need help, like, you know, doing like a gunfight to save her, like, you know, grandpa, uncle, whatever. Like, okay, that's cool. And then I need help, like, moving my fridge tomorrow. You want to come over help me? Like, they're just kind of like, you know, doing favors for each other.
So let's.
yeah, go
can I
for
just paint a quick picture here?
Yeah, sure. Paint a
So
picture.
this takes
Paint me a
place.
word picture.
I don't think they actually describe or say where exactly it takes place, but it's somewhere in the U.S., somewhere in.
I don't think they ever say
Rockies.
Tia's name. I only know that because of the credits.
Right. So it's somewhere in the Rockies. So picture like I don't know if you've ever seen Last of the Dogmen. It's like a really scenic backdrop of snowy mountains, pine
Yeah.
forests, small town America up in the mountains, like really small town. It's not really the setting where you would have two different Chinese mob factions, a Russian mob faction, and corrupt town cops owned by one of the Chinese mob factions, and then also the state troopers who don't have anything to do with any of it, but they accidentally get killed by the Chinese mob.
It makes for a very confusing multicultural soup.
All in like this like really teeny tiny small town, and Seagal just gets roped up in all of them. It really doesn't make sense, but they show the scenic backdrop so often, like it's
Well,
really-
and
It
it's
appears,
really
according to
funny.
online, this takes place in Arizona.
Arizona. What? Really?
I'm not saying it takes place in Arizona. I'm saying according to the Wikipedia page,
Yeah.
he is smuggled through Seattle, and then most of this movie takes place in Arizona.
I guess.
I
guess
just
Arizona
judging from the
touches
B-roll, I
Rockies.
don't believe that. If that's
I-
what they were going for,
You
they
don't
missed
have
it
to believe it.
because
I
they
was
they
thinking,
gave
like,
a
northern
very clear picture of the
Colorado.
Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I like Colorado at the
Yeah.
southernmost, maybe like Idaho, Oregon.
Mhm.
I don't know. It definitely Arizona. I don't know. That doesn't sound right.
No.
You know what? I don't know. I haven't been there enough. I haven't.
Mhm.
I don't know what it looks like. It could be totally off. The point is, you have the Chinese mob, the other Chinese mob, the Russian mob, the corrupt cops owned by the Chinese mob, and the state troopers, all in like small town America somewhere up in the mountains. It's very, very funny.
All fighting over a guy. Most of the people here don't even know that they're fighting over some guy.
No, it's just complete coincidence. Everyone just kind of bumps into
Yeah.
each other, and they're like, "Okay, let's just do this. Why not?"
Yeah.
And that's
And
the
it's-
movie.
It's just there's like, there's a fight here and there's a fight there and then there's another fight here. The one Chinese mob faction takes over the other Chinese mob faction, and then they and the corrupt cops go and try and take down the Russian mob, and the Russian mob kills them off with the help of Seagal, and Seagal and the Russian mob are best buds, and then they go kill the rest of the Chinese mob, and that's the movie.
Except, okay, so you could have made the exact same movie, but made a whole lot more sense if you get rid of one of the Chinese mobs and get rid of the corrupt cops. Even though the corrupt cops had like some of my favorite moments in the movie,
It didn't matter.
like I
And they all
feel
died.
like the writer wanted to put these cops in here because he had like some good ideas about what corrupt cops would be doing in the situation, because they
Yeah.
had some of my favorite like character moments, but those moments did not matter to the actual
No.
story.
And they
Although-
all died before in like the penultimate fight. By the time you come down to the fight that really matters, the thing that everything hinges on, it's Russian mob and Seagal versus the remaining Chinese mob faction.
2 of the
and
4
that's
factions
it.
have been killed.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. It was wild.
Although you say you could make this movie without those pieces, it could also be said that you could make this movie without the opening 20-minute like exoneration, like
Yeah.
fake death carjacking. So when we add up all of the pieces of this movie that this movie could exist without, we've got at least like 45 minutes of the runtime of the 94-minute runtime here.
Uh-huh.
So,
Oh.
they say concise writing is good writing, that brevity is the soul of wit, but like
Yeah.
they could not they couldn't afford the edits we're suggesting.
Well,
they hit the page count, and you're telling them that they got to cut out like half of it.
I haven't played Script Doctor in a while, but I'm gonna Script Doctor this up a little bit. So what you do is, what you really should do to make this movie make a whole lot more sense. One, get rid of one of the Chinese gang factions. You can keep the corrupt cops because there are only a few of them. Like a few of these corrupt cops, and they have like the best single moments of cinema in this movie, I think.
Do not use the word cinema.
Get
that out of your
I mean, but I'm with him. They make the most sense as an enemy faction in a small town.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm disagreeing with his
in
usage of the word cinema within the same conversation.
Well,
of
but
this movie.
some of the shots where like the leader of the cops gets out of the captain or whatever gets out of his car and he's looking at the crime scene and the camera sort of pans up to his face with the mountains in the background. Like it makes sense.
Yeah.
That it looks like a different movie from the other shots of the Chinese and the Russian mob.
The second unit or whatever who was working just with these cop scenes was doing far and away a better job just making a movie than anything else. Like I'm
totally on board with that.
There's like this one beautiful scene that I wish this quality endured throughout the rest of the movie. Like the way the captain is introduced. He steps out of his car and he's like looking at the crime scene where like the first shootout of the movie happened, where like that one Russian guy and the trooper died.
Yeah.
And so he goes over to the body of the trooper, pulls out a gun and like shoots the Chinese gangster. Like there's a Chinese gangster, a Russian mobster, and the cop who are like dead on the ground. And so he shoots the body of the Chinese gangster and then puts the gun in the hand of the dead cop and says, "There you go, now you're a hero." And he tells the other cops to like fix the scene to make it look like this police officer died in like a heroic sacrifice and that it wasn't just like a bloodbath.
Yeah. So that when the state cops got there, that's how they would see it.
He's like, clean it up before they get in. We only got a couple hours or something.
Yeah, I thought that was like, oh, okay. He's like a villain in this and he's doing intelligent things and trying to cover things up, and that just doesn't endure for the rest of the movie.
No.
Doesn't even relate to the rest of the movie. It's not even that it doesn't endure.
No, that never comes up again.
But like that could have been a thing where he helps out the Chinese gang by going into crime scenes and rearranging stuff and falsifying documents. Like that could have been his job throughout the movie, and it would have made his character work. And the one time that they do it, it does work really well, except that it doesn't matter to the rest of the story. The second thing I would do is cut out Tia entirely. She could be replaced by a manila envelope filled with fake documents, like fake immigration documents, and her entire function within the movie would have been fulfilled. Like if it was just like a fake passport and like some immigration papers, and Seagal looks at it and is like, "Oh, I've been working in the military for a long time. These are fake, but they're like really good. These was done by professionals, and they're trying to get this guy into the United States. We need to figure out what's going on." Okay, and then everything that Tia gave to the entire plot has been fulfilled.
Okay, see, I wouldn't...
All she does is walk around and get shot. That's it.
I was going to say, then who gets shot at the end?
See, I wouldn't fully agree with that. I would agree with you that plot-wise that would be true.
Yeah.
But I do think a movie like this, in order to be better, can use like that kind of emotional connection, like an emotional heart. So my script doctor would be that Tia can stay. So, hey, Tia, I know Aaron was asking you to leave the room. You can come back in. You can stay. But we changed the romance, so it's with her and the Russian mobster. Because what happens in this movie is that Seagal just kind of ends up being friends with like a late 20s Russian dude, and then husband to like a mid to late 20s Chinese woman. I assume, at least, I don't know exactly. She has her uncle's from China, so I assume she's Chinese American to some extent. But rather than just having a weirdly young friend and a weirdly young wife, it could just be Seagal is here, and he is like this grizzled figure who ends up helping out these two people who then actually relate to each other and like become a couple, and like both have been like over by the Chinese mob. Like I think that gives you more of a consistent through line. Like if Seagal is just not the protagonist, that gives you a consistent through line of these are your protagonist and your protagonist, and they have like a reason to come together, and you have like something to root for. So plot wise, the information she conveys, I feel like you could have without her, but I do feel like a stronger version of not this movie of rather than a dangerous man, like a few dangerous men, like, you know, the script doctored version of this. I think Tia stays just the romance that we touched on earlier that would make a lot more sense is the romance that happens.
And give her like something to do.
Yeah.
All she does is walk around and follow Seagal.
She could take
Sergey.
out like one of the...
There's
like, you know,
even
one of
a
the
scene where
goons, like-
she's like about to shoot a guy who's like trying to stab Sergey, but then as she pulls the trigger, she gets tackled and misses.
Yeah.
Like
if
she
saved them
almost had
once, you can
agency.
see how that would like bring them closer. Like,
Yeah,
it just
"Oh,
doesn't.
You saved my life. Oh, I see you in a new light now.
It just doesn't
Nope.
make sense. And she's like, you know, anything for you and anything for my uncle or whatever.
Yeah. Nope. Doesn't matter. Also,
But other than that, I appreciate your script doctor suggestions.
third point, script doctor. Tell me why in the world anyone needs to interrogate this old man.
So they said at one point, I couldn't figure that out either, but they said at
Okay.
one point that they needed the girl, like they kept trying to kidnap the girl, they like tried to get her back because they needed to hold her ransom so that they got the uncle. But
Yeah.
they were already getting the uncle, like he was being delivered. So I don't know why they needed her to hold her ransom, and to hold her ransom to who? Like to
And
to
what
the
do
uncle?
you need
all the money,
from the
all the money was
uncle?
already there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she already
and what do you
paid.
need from the uncle in the first place? Like, it doesn't. None of that storyline made any sense at all. They didn't explain it. You didn't miss anything.
Okay, good.
It's just a complete mess.
Yeah.
I did enjoy though that Byron Mann's character, the Colonel. He's like a leading man in the one faction of the Chinese mob who's using the local faction of the Chinese mob. But they call him the Colonel.
Mm-hmm.
But he's in the Chinese mob.
Yeah,
And
I don't know.
No,
that
you
didn't
know what?
strike
I'm
you
wrong
as
with it.
funny.
Whenever they call him the Colonel, I'm cool with that. I'm like, that's at least a memorable. I can remember that he is the Colonel. For most of these characters,
okay,
I'm
I
just
guess,
like,
but
oh
it
yeah,
just-
this
it didn't-
actor and then this actress. Like, I can't even remember the character names. I can remember.
I had to
know.
look up who Tio was.
exactly.
I know. I'm not saying it's not memorable. I just like the Colonel and a Chinese
Yeah.
like they
Yeah.
wouldn't. Okay, all right.
They wouldn't call him something in Chinese. Nah, it's the Colonel.
Okay. The only other thing that I could think to say about this is that in the very beginning, that doesn't matter. When Seagal's with his wife, there's a meaningless sex scene between the two of them because, of course, there was.
I thought it was no. It's even funnier than that. So every time he
Okay.
thinks about his ex-wife,
Yes.
the only flashback he has is to this one particular time they had sex.
Right.
There's
Where
like 3 or 4 times in the movie he remembers. It's normally in a movie like this when the hero's like remembering their dead wife. He's just remembering his ex-wife, and it's only when she's like topless and giving him a lap dance in
Right,
every single
but-
flashback to her.
but
This
the whole
one
point
particular
is-
time. That is his only memory that we ever see of them both.
Right, but the whole point is she's completely naked and he's fully clothed with a leather jacket on as usual. Nothing
Jacket
ever
on,
changes.
boots on. Yeah.
It's just like, oh,
Which okay,
Ugh.
can we talk about themes? Can we talk about thematic
Yes.
through
Oh.
lines of this era of Seagal's?
Let's be film critics. Yeah.
So,
God.
well, barely, kind of. Hang with me for a second. So,
Hey, I'm trying to get on Rotten Tomatoes.
true.
We're film critics.
So, we've commented on this before. We've definitely noticed this, but it's
Yeah.
really just becoming firmer and firmer here that like
Mhm.
theatrical Seagal, we noticed the tell don't show conflict of themes, that the movie tells you
Yeah.
a theme and then it shows you a different one. And it actually extends beyond theatrical because I was still going on in like Half Past Dead whenever it's
Yeah.
like, ooh, privatized prison bad, and then but actually I don't know, that's not really the main conflict. Like we don't
This
care
is
about
actually
that.
a pretty nice place to live, and nobody really cares.
Yeah, it's actually chill. We have this completely unrelated issue that we have to deal with. Or
Yeah.
like, oh boy, do I hate people who are above the law and face no consequences, but boy, do I love being above the law and face no consequences while I put a stop to them. So
Yes.
I know, Aaron, this is your specialty. You've pointed out many times. The conflict of themes.
Yeah.
With this era of Seagal that we're in, we don't really have the conflict of themes anymore. We have the main like kind of internal conflict of the movies is just that the beginnings of them don't relate to like the first like third of the movie doesn't relate to the last 2/3 of the movie. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of what's replaced the conflict of themes, because as far as I can tell at this point in his career, you used to have a through line of like working within 3-letter agencies but having a distrust of 3-letter agencies, maybe some environmentalism thrown in there. That was
Yeah.
kind of Seagal's pet causes. as far as I can tell at this point, his pet cause is just being divorced, but it being absolutely not his fault. Like
And
they're
having like a scene that he can remember back to where
Yes.
he was in the same room as a naked woman.
yes. Like as far as like
That has
the
happened
only-
in every movie for the past like 5 movies.
Oh yeah, but if you look back at like the past like 7-8 movies or so, I don't know, I'm not exactly counting, but like, you know, this era that we're in right now, we're definitely in like a period where like the only consistent thing when you used to say like, oh yeah, every single time he's going to be like a CIA guy, but he doesn't trust the CIA, and maybe he cares about the environment, maybe not, that's kind of a secondary one. The only thing that's popped up like as often, the only thing that's appearing in almost every movie is that his character is divorced, and it is completely not his character's fault. There's absolutely no way it is his fault. Like his jerk ex-wife couldn't wait for him in prison until the day he was released. And or like she still wants him.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, is that they're divorced. They never really said why they're divorced, but then like he shows up and she's like, oh hey, by the way, you're still cool and I still find you
That has
sexy.
happened in multiple movies. Yeah.
Right. And sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's not his fault and she still wants him, or just sometimes she still wants him. It's not stated the reason. Like,
Yeah.
but this is his, as far as I can tell, his pet cause, the theme he wants to pop up in all of his movies. And other than that, his movies are completely themeless and like
Yeah.
every conceivable usage of the word.
The only theme he can get behind. My divorces are not my fault, and my wife
and my ex-wife still secretly want me. Like, how many movies has that been at this point? It's starting to drive me crazy. I'm like, this can't be
a lot.
you can't just be the divorced guy in every single movie.
Well, do you remember? I mean, before this became the theme, we were kind of hoping for that. Well, because I
Elaborate.
remember a long time ago, I don't know how, like maybe 15 movies ago, we thought, we had a discussion on this podcast about, you know, the character Seagal needs to play is like a divorced, kind of down on his luck, like make him an underdog kind of thing.
No. The character
not.
he needed to play was the like rampaging, like no holds barred.
as an action
no-
star, yeah.
Okay, both of you. Both
Yeah.
of you are correct.
Uh-huh.
We what Aaron's saying, I think, came up in Pistol Whipped when we're
Mm.
like, he should just be like a deadbeat, like piece of like
Okay, yeah,
who
that
maybe
too.
is trying to like do one last good act in his life.
Yeah.
That's a character should play. The problem is he's still not playing that character. He plays that
No,
character
he's
for
not.
like the first 20 minutes of the movie, and then
Right.
he's just like, I'm still cool. I was a big thing in the 80s. I can kill guys and do Aikido, kind of.
Yeah.
Like he
does
doesn't
do-
do that. He's still not that character. He's like
He does do a lot of his own flailing in this one.
He does.
He
The
does.
world is funneling him to be that character, and he steadfastly refuses to move.
He didn't run in this movie.
No, he did not run, but he did
What
do
was
a
the
lot of
last
his
one?
own arm swirls.
But
He
he
did do a lot of
did
his
do
own
an
arm
explosion
swirls.
and really coolly like walk away from it while not looking back.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's the only other thing I lied. I had one more thing written down, and that was it. When the Chinese mob was talking about how they were wiring up the whole place to be bombed, like they had explosives
Yeah.
everywhere. That I didn't quite get why. Like they were gonna interrogate the old man, the uncle, and then blow the place up. I don't really know. There wasn't any reason to. It didn't make any sense. And then after Seagal kills Byron Mann, quote unquote kills him, he finishes everybody else off with a bullet, but he leaves Byron Mann able to get back up for some reason. Walks away. Byron Mann's about to shoot him, and all of his people, the Russian mob, who's just like walking away with their backs turned, like job done.
Yeah.
And then Byron Mann's about to shoot him, and Seagal holds the transmitter up and activates it, and the whole place explodes. And I pointed at the screen. I was like, "Oh my god! Setup and payoff.
Yeah.
That never happens."
The setup has no reason for happening. There's payoff.
But it
No, it
some
doesn't.
basic storytelling elements exist in this movie. There are actually a couple setups and payoff. And every time it happens, either the setup doesn't make any sense, like the only reason we're setting this up is for a payoff later, like
Right.
it doesn't make sense as the narrative, or the payoff isn't very good. So like that's a time when the setup didn't really make any sense, but at least there was a payoff. There was another time that, like, I have in my notes here, the writing is almost really good sometimes. They're trying very hard.
Almost really good sometimes.
It comes so close to being good, it's frustrating. So you have like the two Chinese gang leaders who are like hanging out in their hideout at the docks, and they like brought some women over. And one of the gang leaders is like razzing the other one because he doesn't want to party. The colonel, he doesn't want to party. Like he's just sitting there reading his newspaper. Like he doesn't want to do any of this stuff.
Smoking a million cigarettes.
And smoking a million cigarettes. Not as many as Dunoir, but a lot of cigarettes. And
Dunoir, my heart.
and so the other gang leader like makes him mad by, you know, like he throws like this girl at him and tries to like get him riled up. He says, "What, did I strike a nerve?" And then so later when the colonel like stabs him in the back, he shoots the girl that he was like forced onto him. And he says, "What, did I strike a nerve?" That was something that happened like half an hour ago. That was.
Yeah.
I mean, you had like some setup, you had callbacks to previous things happening.
Wow.
It wasn't very good, but
What an achievement.
at least a moment in the movie remembered a previous moment in the movie, which we haven't had happen in many, many movies.
You want to know the funny part about that, though? That was actually a better one than the explosions, and it had nothing to do with Seagal. That was all Iron Man and
actually,
the other
it's
guy.
interesting. I think if you watch carefully, you'll see every time Seagal comes on screen, like even the cinematography gets worse. Like, I think
Everyone
like
on set just gets more angry.
the weird thing, like the B-roll in this movie is really good. Like if it's just like a shot of the mountains, it'll be very artistically composed. Or just like a car driving down the street and pulling into a parking lot, like just very competent. When the police captain gets out of his car, like you said, Hans, like it just, this shot makes sense. It establishes who this character is, tells me a little bit about him. Very purposeful. But then every scene with Seagal, it's like they had, you know, Jimmy, the camera operator understudy, come over, and he got the chance to operate the camera that day because they didn't care about any scene with Seagal in it. Like it seems like there was no effort put into any of these scenes.
It's like we've had a lot of these movies where Seagal, like Against the Dark, where Seagal's barely present, like he isn't the main character and doesn't need to be the main character. This is one where he actually is very present in the script, very present on set in like almost every scene, but like the movie just almost doesn't want him to be the main character. Like this is the story about the Russian, the guy and the gal and how they fall in love saving her uncle. But then Seagal just is there making himself the main character. He's not supposed to be the main character. The movie, even the cinema verite of the film does not want him to be the main character. The camera's just like, oh, he's here. Oh.
You could take him out, replace all of his lines with Sergey, and the movie would work fine.
Oh, what, you're telling me Sergey stopped a carjacking all those years ago and got falsely put in prison and then out 6 years later and his wife divorced him on the day he got out?
Actually, Sergey, the carjacker, that would have made sense. Yeah. He is a carjacker. So, like, that's a situation he would have been in, and it would have factored into the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it is very funny that Seagal was originally put in prison for stopping a carjacking. And then you have this movie start off with like 3 different like stolen cars, and then this guy who's a carjacker and his dad who sells stolen cars. But stealing cars actually has nothing to do with the film.
No.
There's a lot of cars being stolen and car stealing happening, and people talking about stealing cars for that to not factor. They don't even like ever have to like steal a car to like escape or anything.
No,
like, that
at no
does
point
not
does that
factor
happen
in at all.
Yeah.
That could have easily happened, actually.
It's
at one
also
point,
very
some of the
funny.
Chinese gangsters do steal a boat.
Well, yeah, and that's when the dog dies. It's just bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is kind of funny though that Seagal in every single movie that we have watched so far. What number is this one? Is it 30,
32.
31? 32. In so far 32 movies, Seagal has been like mildly hassled by someone and then he kills them. Like this is just what he does. If someone hassles him, regardless of how much, he beats the ever-loving crap out of that person. And if
a
they
person
die,
just exists.
yeah, if a person just exists, they're in his way while he's like just ripping apart a bar for no reason. If they die, they die. Whatever. You don't really care. You're not supposed to care. It's an action movie. But he just like kills people for no reason.
Oh.
So the fact that he went to prison for supposedly killing the guy who tried to mug his wife and potentially steal their car, but he didn't do it is probably the most unbelievable part of the entire story.
There are multiple times where he will just walk into a room and shoot the first person he sees.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way he knows who's in
didn't,
this room.
He didn't murder that guy.
And you know how in past Seagal movies there's been like a completely extraneous bar fight scene where like this goes all the way back to the beginning. He just goes and just beats people up and like then just ends up at his next like stop. But like beating people up, like there's no reason it actually should have helped him. I think this is the first time where that happens. He walks in, you're just like, oh, he walks into Little Russia. Like this is the bar scene where he's just is a dick and beats people up for no reason. He's beating up a guy that works for like his soon to be best friend. Like the guy is just like, now hold on, why am I gonna give you my boss's information? And Seagal starts beating the guy up, and like they're allies, they're friends, they're buddies, they team up.
It's worse than that.
They're squad.
It's worse than that because he is told by the son, like, if you need help, before they split up, he's told by the son, if you need help, go to Little Russia. My father owns it. He'll help you. I'll be there, whatever. So he goes to Little Russia. They're not there. He talks to the bartender. The bartender says, they're not here. Don't know who you're talking about. You know, get out of here. This isn't the place for you. So Seagal and Tia leave. They just leave. And the bartender then decides, actually, I'm going to follow you out the door and say, what is it that you want with them anyway? Like, there was no reason for that. The bartender doesn't know them. No. He doesn't know to trust them. Nope. He just knows that there are people asking about his boss. So he tells them to leave and then completely abandons it and then says, I'll tell you where they are if you beat the shit out of me. It's so stupid.
Oh, we forgot to go his bar fight scene. Which, can I just say, when Sergey gives him like the card and initially says like, yo, you can go meet like, you know, my dad in like, you know, Little Russia and he'll help you out. I was under the impression, like, normally when you hear that, like, little country, it's, like, a section of a town which is heavily populated by that specific, like...
Not just a
like,
Russian
Little Italy
bar.
would have a lot of, like, Italian restaurants and such. This is literally just a bar named Little Russia, which made me laugh when I saw it. I'm like, no, you mean, like, the section town, right? No, just this one bar. Nope. I thought, like, oh, there'll be a couple Russian businesses. He'll be in, like a heavily Russian... Nope, that is not what happens. Nope. It is one bar. There are, like, 2 Russians in this entire town. Like, I'm assuming like everyone else that works for them is just from like Glendale or something. Like, they're the only Russians actually, so they call it Little Russia.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Tell me what your experience was like. For me, I sent some. I was texting you guys like while I was watching it. 5 minutes in, I hated this thing. I thought this was awful. Like 15 minutes in, I thought like, actually maybe this is so dumb. Maybe it's so bad that like I love it. Like. I think that was like when we had that first scene of like, you know, the shootout and then the police come and they're like, rearrange the bodies. Like, you know, we only got a couple hours. I'm like, oh, this is dumb. This is amazing. And then for the next hour and 15 minutes, I was just completely checked out. Like I just lost so much interest. I did not care. This movie lost me, had me, and then kind of lost me, but just to ambivalence. And I think that's the first time I've ever had a movie do that. So what was your experience watching this?
I watched it on Plex. It's free on Plex. You can just go watch it. It has ads though, which that almost killed me. Because every time an ad came
Prime
on,
Video too, if you don't want ads.
Oh, every time an ad came on, I would just like look away or like start looking at my phone or something, and then the ad would end, and I look back up like, oh no, the movie's going. Yeah, so it was. I mean, I could, by effort of will, I could focus during the movie, but if anything came in and interrupted this. It took a considerable amount of effort to get back to it. Actually, I had to watch this in 3 installments.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had a crazy day. So,
A Dangerous Man, the miniseries.
Yeah. Probably would have worked better as a miniseries, but
don't say that. Don't make that. Don't manifest that.
I had a reasonably decent time with this one. It's easy to follow. It makes it has a through line from beginning to end. There are a lot of players that aren't necessary, a lot of factions that don't need to be there, but it has a story that it sticks to, and it's not convoluted, which is a pretty low bar.
Yeah.
But it clears it, and we've seen a lot of things recently that don't clear that low bar. Either way, I was into it, and then I was out of it. And then I was into it, and then I was out of it. And then I decided, oh, actually, this is okay. Oh, actually, I hate it. You know what? Might be all right, but actually, this kind of sucks. And I was up and down probably 100 different times in this movie. Yeah. And I'm going to say that averages out to about 2 stars.
Yeah.
And that's a low 2 stars, but compared, like, that's a Seagal 2 star on our rating scale. That's still much worse than like any other movie 2 stars. If you can sort of see what I'm saying. It wasn't as bad as some of the other crap that we've seen, but it was still bad.
I'm giving it like a high 2 stars. Just because, like, and I think I've been much more positive on lots of these movies than y'all. But because it just has like a plot that you can follow, even there are like needless complications thrown in there, but the complications end up not actually complicating the plot. Just whatever is happening on screen is more complicated than it needs to be. But you can follow the plot along because you can just like say, I didn't really get that, but then the scene just keeps going. You're like, oh, I didn't really need to. So that's fine.
Flow state. So it's a 2 star with flow state.
Yeah.
Why'd they rig up all the explosives? I don't
Wow.
know. Because they just did that.
Why do they need
But
this
it got its
old
payoff.
guy? Why do they need the uncle? Nah.
I don't know.
The
Gives
whole
us-
driving force behind
Yeah.
the movie.
Gives them something to fight about, you know?
Yeah.
That's all that really needs to happen is they need to have something to fight about. Like, you could replace the uncle and the niece with, like, MacGuffins. They're 2 parts of a puzzle. And you have these 2 Chinese gangs fighting over the uncle, who is, you know, it's the rabbit's foot from Mission Impossible. But they have, like, a key that unlocks it, and that's called Tia. And they need both.
Oh, well, I was going to say, you said it's the rabbit's foot from Mission Impossible. They have a key that unlocks it. That's Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
Aaron.
I'm very sad.
Unfortunately, it turns out a lot of people didn't. Oh, but this is not the
No,
Mission Impossible fan cast.
sadly.
We don't need to talk about the disappointing box office numbers of Dead Reckoning Part 1. This movie's like a 1.5 for me. I don't know. It's
Okay.
just 1.5 is kind of my...
Yeah.
This is just a serviceable Seagal film. Like, I think at least like half of them are just 1.5 because I'm like, this exists, and that's all I can say about it. So this is a very firm 1.5 for me.
Yeah.
Did either of you pick
wrote
out a
that's worth
quote?
Yes, I did. Early on in the movie, the first time that Sergey and Seagal get into the car together, Sergey's like, where are we going to go? And Seagal says, what do you mean we, white boy? And...
So that's back.
thought that was very
so
funny.
consistent. Like like, do you not know? Are you not aware?
Throughout most of this movie, I think he is aware that he is white. But every now and again, he'll just throw in a little
He's not
zinger.
doing as bad. Like,
There are
he's
only,
doing
like, a
his voice.
couple
He's doing a
lines.
voice. He's not doing
Yeah.
the worst iteration of his voice that we've heard.
No, there are only like a couple lines that he speaks in a very offensive African American
Yeah.
accent.
Normally, he's just kind of being like low, husky growl Seagal,
Yeah,
which is the best.
And
you
he
can hope
has a
for.
lot more lines in this than in many
Yeah.
of his previous
Yeah.
movies. Like I was watching along and he like had to explain something to someone, and I'm like, wow, that was like 5 whole sentences in a row. That was amazing.
And he didn't whisper them?
No, he just said them
Yeah.
out loud. It was kind of
Crazy,
amazing.
right?
I think
Speaking of which,
the past few movies, he's been like trying. I think.
Aaron, you've said that before.
I think he is, and I'm
You
kind of
keep
rooting for him.
No,
no.
I take that back.
I want
You're
to see him
rooting
try.
for the cinema that is a dangerous man.
I want to
Yeah.
see him try.
No.
He's doing some of his own stunts, kind of.
No.
He has like longer bits of dialogue. He's been more active recently in the movies. I want him to try. I want him to try. That's what I want.
Speaking of him actually saying more lines in this movie, my favorite line was a Seagal line. He was talking to Byron Mann in like their ultimate fight scene. They're talking to each other before they actually get into it. And Seagal says, like, you know, back and forth, spits bat, I'm going to kill you. No, I'm going to kill you. And then Seagal, like, stops, pauses, and says, weirdly, eloquently, well, unfortunately, in the fabricating of your plans, you have stepped into my minefield. And it
Yes.
like, it
Wait,
didn't,
I
it
completely
didn't
forgot.
match.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It wasn't relevant.
No.
It wasn't a trap. Seagal followed them there and then started a shootout. There was no trap. Like, There was no minefield. There were no plans. It it didn't make any sense, but he said it so well. He didn't start the line with, so like he usually does.
See?
I don't know. It just stuck out. It was
trying.
really funny.
Which scene was that in again?
It was right before he and Byron Mann started their final fight
Oh, okay.
He's trying.
with the uncle in the room.
He trying is
He's trying. He hasn't totally given up yet.
on the complete opposite end of that eloquent spectrum. I'm not even gonna say this is my favorite line. This is the only one I can like remember. Is at the very beginning when he says, "So let me go. Just let me go on by, or I'll you up ugly." And the muggers that he's talking to are like, what does that mean? And he goes, "It means your mama won't recognize you in the coffin."
Yeah.
Because that's his like, I'm gonna take you to the bank, blood bank. Like not in every single movie, but in a lot of these movies, like they're like, okay, that's the line. Like,
Yeah.
The blood bank.
the blood bank. This is his version of the blood bank.
And then he like stabs the guy in the face with part of a gun,
Yeah, it's wild.
which I have only ever seen in a Seagal movie. I have never seen that technique.
Yeah, no, other people don't
used
do that.
anywhere.
Yeah.
The secret
There's
Aikido
probably-
technique of
There's
stabbing him in the face with a gun.
there's probably a reason for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as some of the past ones.
No.
It wasn't good, but it wasn't as bad.
Yeah, it was just kind of.
That's the highest praise I can give.
It fluctuated in quality so much as it goes that I'm not really sure what to give it. I mean, I said 2 stars because it's just kind of.
Yeah, it seems. Like
I
you
don't know
didn't
what
know
else to give it other than 2 stars. Just because, like, there's a couple scenes that I'm like, oh, this belongs in a much better movie, and there are several scenes where I'm thinking, why are we here? I don't know what
Why
the
are we
purpose of
here?
this is.
Why are we here, Aaron?
I mean, do you want me to answer that or?
So what other what projects are the actors and actresses of this film featured in before
So
and after?
we've mentioned many times Byron Mann.
Yeah.
Yes, Byron
who-
Man, the man.
Byron the Man.
Byron the man.
He'll
My
be in
man.
one more after this, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
my
could probably
man
go
was
through
in
these
Belly of
pretty
the Beast
quick.
and then Catwoman. Oh, Byron, I'm sorry.
He's trying. He's been
Oh,
pretty
and he was in
successful in television, though.
Wait, I forgot he played Ryu in Street Fighter. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Byron, my man.
And he's been pretty successful in television.
Yeah.
He's been in like lots of TV shows that people probably seen. Like he was in an episode of Hawaii Five-0, CSI Cyber, Hell on Wheels, NCIS Los Angeles, Altered Carbon, The Expanse. He was in quite a few episodes of The Expanse, actually.
Arrow, people like Arrow.
Blood and Water. Yeah, he was in 12 episodes of Arrow, 9 episodes of Wu Assassins. Like he's done pretty well in television. He's been in
Yes.
lots of different TV. Like he was in Smallville.
He has.
could
It's not a
probably-
large role, but he's excellent in The Big Short. I love his character. Is just the most hateable like person you've ever seen on film.
Oh, he plays it perfectly.
It's so good.
We
He's
could
also
probably
Raymond
run
in Sleeping
through-
Dogs. We get to talk about Sleeping Dogs.
Oh, that's true. We
Yeah,
did. We
get to
talked
talk
about that
Sleeping
before.
Dogs. Hey,
He isn't fantastic in Sleeping Dogs. Extremely underrated video
that's
game.
kind of the beginning and end of us talking about Sleeping Dogs. But we got to talk about Sleeping Dogs, which
Yeah.
is always nice.
Always a good day. We can probably run through the rest of these pretty quick because surprisingly, I actually looked through these for the first time maybe ever because this is usually your guys' segment. But surprisingly, almost every single person in the main cast list has had and then continued to have after this movie a successful career. So Mike DePude, the like cop number 2, Jerry Wasserman, the main cop, the sergeant, they both have had like extremely successful careers. I didn't really recognize a lot of the stuff they were in, but they had a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, Mike DePude was in his first credited role as Maximum Overdrive. That
Wait,
Stephen
really?
King. As uncredited as Little League Boy apparently,
Oh, well,
but
that's not
in
bad
the
to say.
in the film written and directed by Stephen King. Only film Stephen King ever directed.
There's a reason for it.
People
Anyway,
might-
there were a lot of people. Jesse Hutch, who played Sergey, he looks like if Ben Affleck was cloned. slightly younger.
Oh, he
It's pretty
does
much what
have-
he looks
He does
like.
have an Affleck to him.
But he has a pretty successful film
An
career.
Affleck effect to him.
Nobody got ruined by this movie, I think, is the only thing that I can say.
People might recognize Terry Chen from Continuum. He's in lots of episodes of Continuum. He was Price Chang in Jessica Jones, Netflix's Jessica Jones.
Yes.
And he was in an episode of DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Oh. And he was in a bunch of episodes of The Expanse and a TV show called The Lake, which I have never heard of, but he's in 15 episodes of it. Good for you, Terry.
Jerry Wasserman, who played Sergeant Richie, he's actually a professor. He's a professor of English and theater, and he's been in a lot of TV shows. Like, a lot of TV shows. Most recently, The Last of Us. HBO's The Last of Us.
Oh.
The interesting one is that actually Marlena Ma as Tia, she's primarily a producer. She's produced like a good amount of things, but this is like one of her only acting roles.
Well, the writer of this movie, Keone Waxman, he had written a few things before A Dangerous Man, but after A Dangerous Man, he will write 13 episodes of the Steven Seagal TV show True Justice, Steven Seagal movie A Good Man, Steven Seagal movie Absolution, Seagal's End of a Gun, Seagal's Cartels, and Seagal's Contract to Kill. So get used to Keone.
Oh,
Wait.
why?
Thanks, Keone. Wait, Marlena Ma, she's actually... Two of the things she's produced are podcast series. She's a podcast producer.
Oh. Yeah, she seems to be mostly
Let's see if we can get her on.
producer now.
Yeah, this seems to be like this seems like our most likely...
Most likely guest spot.
Yeah. Okay. Let's make that happen. Do a collaboration with a Soft Voice or Ronstadt. I don't even know if either of those podcasts are still ongoing, but
Not a clue.
they're big enough to be... I didn't even know you could have your podcast on IMDb. That opens up a
Oh
whole
my
new...
gosh, can we get on IMDb?
Apparently. Wait, Ronstadt features Rhett and Link from like Good Mythical Morning?
What?
It's a noir comedy? What? Oh,
What?
I'm gonna have to check this out.
When did this happen?
2021, actually. I can tell you exactly when it happened.
Okay. Well, great.
That's I don't know. That's what I got. It was shot in Canada, I guess. Canadian American production.
That it was.
Winding down.
Yeah, we're like keeping that energy for this excellent cinema.
Yeah,
that we
that's
just
the most
witnessed.
we're gonna get out of this one, huh? Oh, the editor for this, Trevor Myrosh. Nothing anybody would recognize, I don't think, except he did edit like 6 or 7 Seagal movies.
Poor guy.
Poor guy.
So whenever we talk about, hey, you could cut this scene out, you could cut this scene out, you could have cut this out, he's just sitting, he's listening. I know he's listening. He's got his, headphones on, and he's just like, yeah, I know. But,
I know, but we had to hit the 90-minute runtime.
92 minutes long. You don't understand. He's saying, yes, I'm aware. I would have loved to have cut that too.
What should people watch instead?
Last of the Dogmen.
Okay.
Good movie.
That's all a recommendation. I actually, while I was watching this, I had a recommendation pop in my head, like for this specifically, but now I can't remember it. Sarah and I watched Pride and Prejudice earlier this week. That's an amazing film. The 2005 Pride and Prejudice. That's a 10 out of 10 film. That was amazing. You should watch Pride and Prejudice.
Is that the one? Is that Keira Knightley?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That is 2005's
pulling
Pride
a
and Prejudice,
Hans.
starring
It's got
Keira
nothing
Knightley
to do
and
with
Matthew
anything.
McFadden, who you will see on Succession. That's what he's known for now. Donald Sutherland, actually. Kiefer Sutherland's dad is in it. He's cool. Rosamund Pike.
Oh, I love Rosamund Pike.
Carey Mulligan, Tom Hollander. It's like Judi Dench. The Dame Judi Dench is in there.
Yeah.
It's directed by Joe Wright. Written for the screen by Deborah Magog. It is of course based on the 1814, I believe, novel Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen.
Which is
Shot by
excellent.
Roman Osen. It's that is a 10 out of 10 film. All I knew about it going in, other than it's based on the book, is 1813, not 1814 novel. All I knew was the hand flicks. And I got very excited while watching the movie. I'm like, wait, it's coming. And he did the hand flex, and it was everything that the internet hyped me up to believe it would be. So you should watch 2005's Pride and Prejudice.
You should also read the book.
Instead of A Dangerous Man. I actually am reading the book now. Like,
It's very
after we
good.
watched the
It's
movie,
really
I started
good.
reading it.
I did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did.
No, it's great. They're like at the ball and Mr. Darcy's there and you're like, ooh, wait a minute, I don't know about this guy. But hold on, hold your horses. You might not like Mr. Darcy now, but just you wait.
Just
he
wait.
might change your mind.
Just you wait.
Just you wait.
I'm struggling to think of a movie that has like some of the same either aesthetics or themes as A Dangerous Man. The only thing I can think of right now is The Dark Knight, because there's that part where Batman goes and illegally extradites a Chinese gangster.
Dark Knight is a good movie. You should watch
Yeah,
The Dark
go
Knight.
watch The Dark Knight, I guess. I don't know.
You know what
yeah.
actually be very funny? If on this movie podcast we like tallied it up. I'm gonna say Sleeping Dogs here just because that'd be very funny. If like at the end of this movie podcast they tallied it up and they're like, yeah, actually the movie that was most often recommended you should watch instead was not a movie. It was the video game Sleeping Dogs.
I mean, yeah, you
Sleeping
should
Dogs.
go play Sleeping Dogs.
You should play Sleeping
You
Dogs.
should play Sleeping Dogs.
You can play Sleeping Dogs or Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition. They're literally like the same exact game. It doesn't matter. I'm sure you've picked it up. It's gone on sale for like $2 on like
You probably don't
Xbox
even know
and
that you have it,
everything.
and you do.
You might even already have Sleeping Dogs.
Yeah.
Go play Sleeping Dogs. It's pretty fun.
Aaron, have you played it?
I played the first couple hours. Yeah.
Aaron, you should play more Sleeping Dogs.
Aaron, you should
Aaron.
play more Sleeping
Oh yeah,
Dogs.
okay, yeah. I
Yes,
should
you-
play more Sleeping Dogs. I should play more Elden Ring. I should play more Baldur's Gate 3. I should
Yes.
play.
Welcome, gamers. Gamers rise up. This is the Gamer Fancast.
Oh my god.
Metal Gear Solid collection. came
Yeah, I
out
should play
recently.
Metal
I'm
Gear
playing
Solid
that.
at all.
You should. Themes, Aaron. Themes.
I know. I would love it, and it was made for me, and I haven't played it at all.
Basically. So while I'm recommending a movie from 2000, a random movie from 2005, I just got Ending B, the second main ending of Nier Automata, a game from 2014 that has nothing to do with this movie. You can play that too.
Oh my god.
I'm completely Hans in it. Just, hey, did you watch like a random movie from like 1973 that has nothing to do with this? Rewatch that. Killers of the Flower Moon is out. Do a Scorsese marathon.
yeah.
I don't care.
I need to
The
go
rules
see
are made
that.
up. Nothing matters.
My dad.
You could do
Why,
anything.
Yesterday-
why is it when you're recommending nonsense, the rules are made up and nothing matters, but when I recommend nonsense, you both yell at me?
Because it's funny
You know
that
why?
way.
Because the rules are made up and nothing matters, Hans. There's no consistent. There's
That's
no rule
mean.
I'm following. Wait, tell me about your dad, Aaron.
My dad yesterday, he's like, "Hey, did you see the trailer for Napoleon?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You want to see it?" I'm like, "Heck yeah, Dad!
Heck yeah.
Let's go
Oh,
see
yeah, you should
Napoleon."
watch Napoleon. Ooh, this podcast episode might come out when Napoleon's close to drop in. Go
Yeah.
watch Napoleon.
Dad movie winter. We're
Dad
doing it.
movie winter. It's approaching.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Go see
Mission
a Dad
Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2, which will maybe be called something different, was delayed a whole entire year to 2025. Guess who's upset? Guess who's
All of us.
guess who's just
whole
weeping into his
world,
pillow
really.
at night every day since that announcement.
You can go rewatch Barbie. I'm sure by this point you can probably stream it somewhere, buy a DVD or something.
The Ultra HD Blu-ray is out for Barbie.
There you go.
Yeah.
You can rewatch that. I just watched a video from Movies with Mikey, who is the protagonist of Barbie. It was great.
I still haven't seen Oppenheimer.
Oh, that's good too. You got to see that too.
Hey, actually, do you think we're able to affect any change in the film industry with this podcast?
Sure.
I know all the bigwigs are like listening to this.
Yeah.
We can always
Yeah.
try, and there's
So-
like a teeny tiny % chance that it might actually happen, and then we can say that we influence the industry.
okay,
Yeah,
this is
ooh,
true.
yeah.
We should start just like have a little segment at the end
I
where
know-
it's just like,
I
hey,
know,
movie
like-
industry, do this.
I know Eisner watches this. He has to.
Yeah, so we can take credit for it. If you are at Working Title Films, Pride and Prejudice from 2005 does not have a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray release.
Oh, that's what
and
you were
is a
gonna ask
crime.
for?
That is not what I'm asking for. That is what I'm demanding. Because we watch the streaming, and you get some of those just shots. You get the cinema. You get the eye pastries that you just can't help but want to devour. This entire movie is just a treat of a visual feast. It is a sumptuous delight, and it is not available on the Ultra HD Blu-ray, and I need them to fix that. Do you know how many people would be excited for a Pride and Prejudice 4K Ultra HD
Do
release?
you know how much money you would make?
Do you know how much money you would make? Just put the hand flex in the trailer for it, in the ad, in the screenshots on the back of the cover, and Best Buy will start selling physical media again because you have done this. They will say, we'll start doing this again just so we can have an exclusive Steelbook, and the Steelbook will just be like Mr. Darcy's hand flexing. So whenever they do re-release Pride and Prejudice on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, I'm going to take credit for making that happen.
There you go.
You know what I'm going to demand?
Yes.
I'm going to demand a 4K UHD Blu-ray release of There Will Be Blood.
Yeah, it's crazy that doesn't exist yet.
What?
Make that happen. We're bringing physical media back.
How does that not happen? Yeah, this is okay. Next episode. Hey, surprise! This is no longer a Steven Seagal podcast. This is a physical media podcast, and we're just going to talk about physical media releases from now on.
That was actually a joke because that's happening.
We've
but
changed.
I'm going to claim.
But it hasn't happened yet, so you can still claim like credit for making that happen. Joe Wright, I know you're listening. Pride and Prejudice, Ultra HD. Beautiful film, make it happen. Those like the sunset, the rain scene, her walking across the field. This can't just be stuck to 1080. We need the Ultra HD.
Okay, now that we've completely lost the thread, let's close ourselves out here.
And you can just edit all of that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this has been episode 32 of Steven C. et al. What do our
32.
listeners have to look forward to in episode 33? Can anybody tell me what's up next?
Join us next week for not the physical media podcast for
Wait.
next week's Machete.
Oh,
we
heck
actually
yeah!
watching
Okay.
Machete?
Wait,
Next week's Machete. Oh my god, I'm so ready for
I'm
this.
so excited. Actually,
I'm so excited. Yes, we actually have a good movie coming up.
Interesting.
This is
It's been a
beautiful.
minite. I'm so excited to watch Machete and be like, oh yeah, Steven Seagal's only in like 3 minutes of this, please. That's what I'm hoping for. Just have this man in like one scene. Do like the reverse. We've done this before where Danny Trejo shows up and he's like on the front, he's on the cover, he's like one of the 3 main actors, and then he's only in like the one scene that happened in a Seagal movie.
Yeah.
Please let this be the opposite. Please let us just talk about Danny Trejo for like an hour and Seagal's actually barely in it. I would love that so much.
So is this? Are we counting it as a Seagal movie, or are we watching it?
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm watching Machete.
I'm gonna watch Machete this week.
Can pry Machete out of my cold dead hands, you bastard.
I'm just making sure. Oh my god!
Don't take Machete from me. We're gonna cook up some
that's
of.
fine.
We're gonna cook up some of Trejo's tacos and watch Machete.
Oh yeah, there we go.
I've never seen Machete, so I'm excited for it. I will tell you one thing. This is something. This is going to make you both like sigh in aggravation.
Oh.
But it looks like Machete stars Michelle Rodriguez, who played Ana Lucia in Lost, and Jeff. I'm sorry, Jeff, but I'm going to mispronounce your last name. Fahy, who played Lapidus in Lost.
It also stars Danny Trejo, who has played like 300 characters in like 500 movies.
Yeah,
No, I'm more excited about the Lost reunion.
you need to get your
so we
priorities straight.
So we already know that at the
And
end.
Lindsay Lohan?
What?
Yes. So we're yes.
What?
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, we're gonna next week we're gonna talk about like the history
And
of
Robert De Niro?
Oh my god. Next week we'll talk about the
What the heck?
exact lightning in a bottle like chain of events that led to this movie being made. It has a fun
I know nothing
Stacey
about this
Keach?
movie. Nothing.
Yes. Yeah, no,
Jessica
this movie
Alba's in this
okay,
movie.
this is going to be a fun
What is
recap because
this?
this just has far more to do. Like, there's far more interesting pre-production on this than we've had
Okay.
recently.
We'll save it for
Like,
next
the
week.
way
We'll
this
save it for
movie
next
came
week.
to be is just
Yeah.
the way movies do not tend to come to be.
This is so
Wow.
cool. Okay,
That
I'm
was a
excited now.
sentence.
I'm
good
excited
at English. Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. Join us next week. We're excited for next week. I hope
Yeah.
you are too.
Oh yeah, for the
Yeah.
first time in like
Yeah.
ever, I think. Actually,
This has a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't
Okay, no,
think
it's
we've
better
had
than that.
anything above like 23 for the past like
And this is
20 weeks.
great,
This is a fun 70%. Trust me.
awesome.
Interesting.
Uh,
Seagal's not even on the poster.
Ooh, tune in next time for all that. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
That means one of us has to die.
Don't say that. Don't make that. Don't manifest that.